Our first slide discusses adolescence and puberty. The reproductive system remains dormant for several years after birth. A surge of pituitary gonadotropins awaken the reproductive system. It's actually preparing the body for reproductive function. This happens around age 10 to 12 in boys and 8 to 10 in girls. This time and until the individual reaches full height is known as adolescence. The first few years of adolescence are defined as puberty. Puberty marks the first menstrual period in girls and the first ejaculation of viable sperm in boys. Reproduction is regulated by hormonal links between the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and the gonads. The maturing hypothalamus begins producing gonadotropin-releasing hormone, GnRH. This travels to the pituitary gland via the hypophyseal portal system. There are many hormones involved. This actually stimulates the gonadotropes to secrete follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. These stimulate different cells in the testes. LH stimulates cells in the testes to secrete testosterone, and FSH leads to the secretion of an androgen-binding protein. It binds testosterone and accumulates it in the seminiferous tubules and the epididymis. Puberty has a lot of conspicuous effects on the body, such as stimulated growth of sex organs, including enlargement of the scrotum and testes around age 13. Ducts and accessory glands also enlarge. Testosterone stimulates a burst of generalized body growth. Appetite grows larger as well, the voice changes, and the larynx enlarges. Red blood count also increases. The androgen dihydrotestosterone, DHT, stimulates development of pubic hair, axillary hair, and later facial hair. As the hair develops, so does the apocrine scent glands. Skin becomes darker and thicker and secretes more sebum, causing acne. The onset of sperm production begins and rises. Continuing with the effects on the body, it inhibits GnRH secretion by the hypothalamus and GnRH sensitivity of the pituitary. This holds FSH and LH secretion in check. Levels of androgens rise due to the pituitary becoming less sensitive to the negative feedback. It then secretes increasing amounts of gonadotropins. Testosterone stimulates the brain and awakens the libido, which is the sex drive. Neurons convert it to the estrogen. Erections occur frequently and ejaculations occur even during sleep. This is known as nocturnal emissions or wet dreams. Testosterone sustains the male reproductive tract, sperm production, and the libido. Aging has a lot to do with the male reproductive system and sexual function. There is something known as male climacteric, also known as andropause. It's actually a controversial concept, but what it means is a period of declining reproductive function that becomes noticeable typically in the early 50s. Caused by the falling levels of testosterone and inhibin, at age 20, testosterone peaks at 7 milligrams per day, declines steadily to as little as 1/5 of this by the age of 80. Sperm count and libido also diminish. By age 65, sperm count drops to as little as 1/3 of this number. However, men can still father children at this age. The pituitary is less inhibited and secretes high levels of FSH and LH. This causes symptoms in men similar to those in premenopausal women. Our last slide discusses erectile dysfunction. Around 20% of men in their 60s and 50% of men in their 80s experience erectile dysfunction. This is also known as impotence. It is defined as the frequent inability to produce or maintain an erection sufficient for intercourse. Unfortunately, the quality of life is majorly impacted by ED, and over 90% of men with ED are still able to ejaculate. This concludes our PowerPoint on the male reproductive system.